Hello and welcome to the Total Annihilation faction overview. So the first overview will be about the ARM faction. ARM has the largest selection of units available among all factions, many of them built only for one specific task. In general, the units are affordable and highly mobile. Many of ARM's frontline units are equipped with energy machine guns that fire rapidly and provide a lot of bang for the bucks. These weapons excel at shredding apart light armor and also quickly deplete the heaviest enemy shield with sheer volume of projectiles. First unit we are covering is the Commander. This is the unit you will start with. It's relatively beefy, but compared to the other commanders, it's actually the weakest one. It has a plasma bolt gun and it has a disintegrator gun, also called D-gun, which you activate with the D button. This is actually the strongest D-gun in the game. The Commander has a lot of build power. It has a build power value of 2. And it can construct a lot of different buildings, as you can see on the left side. So these are the tier 1 buildings that it can construct. I will go into detail a little bit later. It can also build one tier 2 building, the tier 2 ground factory. It can construct, and it can construct naval buildings. So now, starting with the metal extractors, these ones, we put them on metal spots, and they always give you +3 metal. Then we also have metal storages, store metal, or increase the capacity, you see up here. Then you have the solar panels, they have +4 energy. So it's constant, there is no randomness. And we have the geothermal power plants, which give +40 energy. And also related to energy is the energy storage one. Then we have the defense T1 defense structures. So we have the walls, you can see here. You have the autogun, which fires EMG rounds. You have the watchtower, which fires rockets, also can shoot at air. And you have the hammer, light artillery, or it can fire up to here. And this one is the Vigilant, the radar. So then continuing with factories. So first with the T1 light ground factory. So only ARM has this one. So ARM can produce in this light factory first the settler, which is the K-bot con. This one can also produce the major buildings like T1 buildings like metal extractors, solar panels, etc. But it can also lay mines. Those mines are especially effective versus enemy K-bots or light vehicles. The build power is only 0.5, so you need 4 of these to build as fast as a commander. Then we have the Outrider, which is a radar unit. You can see here, radar range. You have the Marine, which is a light K-bot. There's also EMG rounds, but very small ones. Usually in early game, they are not very good, so they get countered easily by arm, by tanks, and also by core K-bots and block K-bots, which I will cover later. But they are very good. They are very cheap. You can master them, and they are very good versus as a meat shield versus enemy tanks, especially T2 tanks, because they will often overkill, and then your other units can finish them off. Then we have the Harasser, very fast bike with rockets. They are outranging most other T2 light units, so especially versus core, they're very effective. They are countering the core K-bots called Grunt. But they are not so great versus Disciples because they have shields. So now I want to show you some examples of a T1 light factory. In this case, you can see a settler building up some defenses with walls and 2 frontier maxes. Those frontier maxes have rockets to defend themselves, but they give a little bit less metal. Give only +2. So these defenses are attacked by core errants, and as you can see, they can deal quite well with them. Then you have the same setup with mines included, and those mines shred those grunts easily. And here you can see some Harasers fighting versus T1 K-bots from core called grunts, and they deal quite well with them if you micro them to be out of range. Now an example with Marines. Marines versus a T1 core laser tank called Aegis, and they deal quite well with one. So here we have some Marines and a T2 tank called Devastator versus some Aegis and some errant core units. The next factory I'm covering is the T1 heavy ground factory. There you can build the Custodian, which is the T1 vehicle on, which can actually build the same stuff as the commander, except it cannot build underwater maxes because it is technically a hovercraft. And the build power is 1. This means you need 2 of those to build as fast as the commander. Then you have the Scorpion. It's similar to the original TA Flash. It has EMGs. It's very fast. It's EMGs, but it's only lightly armored. Especially good versus Disciples. Also good versus Grunts, and very good for raiding. But it gets hard countered by laser tanks, for example. And we have the Broadside. It's a heavy T1 K-bot with artillery plasma rounds. Especially good versus crowds of enemies, and it outranges most T1 defenses. Then we have the Havoc tank. Quite a formidable main battle tank. It is actually the one with the highest range compared to the GOG and core main battle tanks, Aegis and Scorch. But it is the armor is the weakest compared to the other ones. Also, the accuracy of the rounds, as you can see, not very great. And now it looks like it's very great, but actually it's not that good. Then we have the Viking, the Hover tank, as a railgun. Very versatile. Of course, as a hover, it can also attack from water and can be used to defend with ships. Then we have the Stinger. It's anti-air rocket overcraft. Can also be used versus light units. But you need to protect it because they're very fragile. And then we have the ballista. It's a very strong T1 artillery, has a very high range, and it can one-shot enemy maxes, for example. Fires those ballistic rockets. But it's also very fragile and quite slow. So you have to micro them well, plan well, and protect them well. So now some examples with the T1 heavy factory. Here you can see some scorpions, which are similar to Flash, attacking into T1 K-bots. If you can get on top of them, they are actually beating them quite well. So now again with scorpions, this time versus T1 laser tanks. I also got on top of them, so I can trade relatively well. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. But if the laser tanks can keep their distance, you have no chance. In this case, I scouted with 2 scorpions and then I bombard with broadsides. Here I use a T1 scout aircraft to detect the turrets, and then I attack from a safe spot with a ballista. Here the main battle tanks of core and arm. So the Havocs are weaker, but they have higher range and their accuracy is worse. So you really have to kite well to deal properly with the Aegis. In this case, I am raiding with some Viking hover tanks. So in general, they are quite good to deal with turrets and maxes and energy buildings. Just go in, destroy some stuff, and then run for it, because the Aegis in this case are much stronger. And here, at last, the Stinger hover tanks, they deal quite well with air units, with T1 air units at least. In this case, it's 2 Aurora bombers and 2 fighters. With a little bit better micro, you can deal with these bombers even better. So now I'm talking about the T1 aircraft factory. So first we have the Overseer. It's a T1 air construction unit. Can build similar to the ground construction vehicle. Also cannot produce underwater. It has a build power of 0.5, so again you need 4 of these to match the commander's build. So instead of the T2 ground factory, it can produce the build the T2 aircraft factory. Then we have the Hercules. This one is a transport. It's relatively cheap, and you can transport tanks, vehicles, T1 stuff that is small, except for the hovercrafts. That is not possible. So for example, you can use it either with a Havoc or a broadside to drop it into the enemy base, unload command, and then destroy the enemy maxes. Then we have the Rebel. This is the Tier 1 fighter. It's a very versatile fighter, relatively cheap, it's fast, fires EMGs on other aircraft, and it fires rockets on ground units. So it can be used a little bit like the Hawk. It can also be microed. The next one is the Predator. It's a very cheap unit, cannot attack, it does not have any weapons, but it can be used for scouting. It's relatively fast, hard to hit. So the last one is the Corsair. It's a T1 bomber. It has 3 bombs, and you can destroy 1 max if you micro it like this. Otherwise, you need 2 runs. And then we also have the aircraft repair center. So if units are damaged, they will fly back to those 4 aircrafts at once. They will be repaired, and then you can bring them back to battle. And now let me show you some examples of the T1 air factory. Here is your Predator throwing depth charges on a core sub. Next one is a bomber bombarding a T1 core max. And here a run on his energy productions. And now I show you some rebels attacking a T1 anti-air turret and destroying it in 1 run. This one is an engagement between 6 Hornets anti-air fighters 4 versus 8 rebels. Last building is the T1 naval factory. Can produce the underling, which is a submarine constructor. Can construct underwater metal extractors, floating solar panels, defensive structures like torpedo, turrets, mines, etc. Then we have, you can also build again the custodian, which is the vehicle con. You can produce the outrider, which is the scout. So they are all hovers here. Then we have the Viking again and the Stinger. So then we have other 2 ships. We have the Patriot, which is a destroyer. Which can shoot 2 weapons. It can shoot rockets similar to the ballista, and it also has a plasma gun which fires 2 rounds. And the last one is the Steelhead, which is a sub with torpedoes. And here you can see the naval buildings. We have the floating solar panel, which has also +4 energy. We have the underwater metal extractor, which also has +3 metal. Then we have the Harpoon. It's a railgun turret. The Watchtower NS, which is similar to the Watchtower, but just on water. And then with the Trident, it has torpedoes, automatically attacks submarines. We have the Blockade, which is similar to the walls you can build on land. And we have the Sentinel, which is a radar on water. And we also have those ones, the Riptide. It's an underwater mine, which can only be built by the underwater. And finally, let me show you some of the T1 naval vehicles and ships and how they perform. So here you can see the T1 armed destroyer versus a Triton frigate. And here again, the T1 armed destroyer versus some defenses. Here I use the mega map to aim for those. So it will just launch rockets, not use its plasma guns. And finally, I also destroy a mechs using the plasma guns. And here you see 5 Vikings over tanks attacking a Proteus core destroyer. And here also Vikings versus G1 core hover tanks. And again, Vikings, this time versus Tritons, a very close one. So thank you for listening. See you next time in the core faction overview.